Have you or your business ever thought about how AI can fortify business cybersecurity defenses and enhance compliance? Or what innovative strategies are leading companies using right now to stay ahead in the security game? Well, today on Tech Talks Daily, I'm excited to get Jeremy Epling, Chief Product Officer at Vanta, onto the podcast. With an impressive career spanning more than 16 years at Microsoft, 4 years at GitHub, Jeremy brings a wealth of experience and insights into the role of AI and cybersecurity. And named the #1 most innovative security company in 2024 by Fast Company, Vanta is at the forefront of leveraging AI to streamline security and compliance. So today, Jeremy's going to share his insights and also findings from Vanta's latest State of Trust report, revealing some critical insights into the current state of cybersecurity and AI adoption, something I don't think we talk about enough. We get carried away talking about the shiny side of AI, but less so about the importance of AI adoption in cybersecurity. Reaching listeners in 165 countries every day is testament to the unwavering support of you, my listeners, and our sponsors, without whom this podcast just simply wouldn't be possible. And it also gives me a chance to talk about the fact that legacy DRM failed to securely enable external collaboration, especially on sensitive files, and how every organisation faces this risk-trust contradiction where they can share content with untrusted third parties, yet expected to protect that data. So it's time for something more modern, a DRM solution that solves that dilemma without compromising security or productivity. And you can do all that with a company called Kiteworks that will enable you to say goodbye to deployment headaches, file transfer risk, collaboration barriers, and productivity constraints, so you can experience a more modern way to collaborate on sensitive content without sacrificing control or security. Please visit kiteworks.com to get started today. That's kiteworks.com to get started today. Now is the moment you've really been waiting for. It's time to get today's guest on. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to North Carolina, where Jeremy's waiting to talk with us today. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Jeremy. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, definitely. Jeremy Epling. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Vanta, so lead our product engineering and design teams here. And yeah, it's been amazing. I've been at Vanta for 1 year, and the company has just grown so much throughout its history. When you look at like really where Vanta came from, people were doing these manual point-in-time assessments for audits and trying to get compliance. So few people were able to get SOC 2 and ISO because of how much manual work was required in the process. And then one of the issues that you run into with that same process is, hey, great, you got a certification, but the next day, is it still good, right? And it's like a whole year, you're kind of wondering, like, is the person still up to date on this or not? And Vanta really transformed that in 2018 when it was founded by creating automated compliance. So this entire new category of not only how do you get compliant, but how do you stay compliant? How do we have real-time monitoring so that you know when you're getting off track, which also not only makes it easier for you to constantly stay on track and feel good about your security and compliance progress over time. We enable you to then share that with your customers directly on your trust center so you can build more trust with them as well, and understanding that, hey, even though if your last audit was a year ago or was 9 months ago or whatever else, you're still keeping on top of everything. It also means less work for security teams as well, because instead of kind of going back and having to go find all this crufty stuff that may have broken in the last like 9 months, and now you're rushing to go do it through the audit, throughout the whole year, you're constantly staying up to date on what's happening. And I think one of the interesting things that's happened with Vanta has really been the AI explosion as well. And when we look at like Vanta AI and where that's leaded, how we've been able to introduce AI to the compliance process that's very heavy on kind of documents and data to areas where large language models are really great. So I think those have been some of the key interesting areas that, at least during my time at Vanta, we've been very focused on around really redefining kind of from these point-in-time assessments to automated compliance into full trust management, and then really going deep in Vanta AI.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you join me. Before we started recording, I was admiring your setup there. You look and sound great, especially for a podcast, and you did let slip that you you have worked at GitHub in the past. So can you provide a little bit more information about your backstory, your role at Vanta, and also your experiences at everywhere from Microsoft to GitHub?
Yeah, definitely. I started off like way back when in like high school teaching myself how to program as an engineer. So I was just super excited. It was like the late 90s. The web was exploding. It was pre the first bubble for .com and was excited. So built a bunch of websites for small businesses. And like that was kind of my high school job, I guess a little bit of an entrepreneurial job. Yeah, I went to university, studied computer science, started a startup. It didn't really go anywhere, but led to a job at Microsoft. I was there for about 15 years working on a lot of different products. I worked on Windows, on graphics libraries, common controls, things like that. Worked on Office, was on the team kind of from day one of starting OneDrive and kind of scaling that up to maybe around few first million users. And then worked on Azure for a little while. And then, eventually came to GitHub and led a bunch of new product development there. So when I joined GitHub, it was right after the acquisition by Microsoft, and we were really expanding GitHub from as an amazing product for source control and community and issue management, but really wanted to be a full developer platform. So I led the teams that built like GitHub Actions, which is continuous integration delivery platform there, GitHub Packages and the container registry, GitHub Codespaces, which is basically building development environments in the cloud, and the acquisition of NPM, and NPM was later on my team. And then, a year ago, decided to look for something else. Really loved that early stage building. Even when I was at Microsoft and like the days at GitHub, I just loved the 0 to 1, building a new product, trying to figure out how to make it fit, how to make developers like really love that or the different customers that we have. So met Christina and she was just an amazing founder. We kind of clicked really quickly. I was super excited about the mission for the company and the product and where we could take it. And it's been an amazing first year.
Wow, you've been on an incredible journey, such a rich history working in the tech industry. And you probably get a little bit frustrated about the hype that surrounds AI now. You've probably been seeing AI way back before everyone got excited about it. But there is so much, as I said, hype at the moment, especially around things like content generation, maybe even coding and collaboration. But one of the reasons I invited you on today was to talk about how AI can enhance businesses' cybersecurity defenses through things like improved compliance measures. It's the kind of areas that we don't talk about enough, but it's fundamental in IT and business resilience. So can you expand on that for me?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's a huge opportunity here. I think with any new technology, there's always going to be probably some amount of overhyping that happens at the beginning where people can see what it could maybe do. And some of that comes true and some of it is probably a few years away. I think for AI, it really has a really interesting use case in security and compliance for a couple of reasons, especially in compliance. Like, what are large language models usually really great at? It's really analyzing lots of text and producing text. And a lot of security work is actually still rooted in that, especially with compliance. There is a lot of paperwork and spreadsheets that go back and forth. A lot of the GRC, governance, risk, and compliance team I talk to are still manually working in spreadsheets. They're sending tons of documents back and forth. If you're a company that's selling software, the kind of API you're using a lot of the time is actually sending a massive questionnaire back and forth around security questionnaire. So if you're selling Acme and Acme is selling software to some other company, what are you going to get? You're going to get a questionnaire. It could be 400 questions long about all these different security practices. So there's so much text kind of going back and forth that I think LLMs really enabled this whole new way of approaching it, where basic search and other tech we had in the past wasn't able to really build that understanding. So this is one of the big areas we focused a lot on Vanta is like, hey, how can we automate questionnaires? How can we automate vendor reviews? Looking for places where people are sending these big docs back and forth and trying to get the useful knowledge nuggets out of them. And like, how can we make that a lot easier? I think the other thing is around like data analysis too. Even in my own usage, where I've been using ChatGPT or using Claude from Anthropic or whatever else, it's really great for just dropping in lots of data and then asking questions about it. And maybe you have to do some time describing the columns or whatever else. But I think that really helps security and compliance teams as well get those actionable insights. So you're not just kind of seeing a trend chart, but wondering like, what is the actual impact of that? What has changed? A lot of my experience building like SaaS products is when you look at reporting, especially, there's this massive kind of like long tail where you may have a bunch of customers that want the same 5 or 6 reports. And then for the long tail there, they all want something slightly different. And you can either kind of build that for everyone slightly differently, but it's not really sustainable. And I think AI starts to provide a really interesting way just to ask those questions and automatically generate some of the reports and charts without a massive engineering investment with tons of flexibility across all these different types of data.
Oh, cool. And another reason I was excited to get you on the podcast today was when I was doing a little research, I found that Vanta was named the #1 most innovative security company in 2024 by Fast Company. So first of all, huge kudos, huge congratulations. But can you tell me a little bit more about the story behind that, especially Vanta's product and AI strategy that obviously led to that recognition? Incredibly cool, isn't it?
Yeah. It was a huge moment for us and something I'm really proud of. I mean, I think the Vanta AI story that we've built is a huge part of this. Like, we've launched multiple kind of like new products that I think are really focused on bringing AI to help customers. Like, a lot of other companies I've talked to are using AI for a lot of their internal tools, which is great. Our goal is really to bring that to customers quickly. So we have Vanta trust centers and questionnaire automation. So whenever you're selling software, I mentioned before that all of your buyers and prospects will come in. They have all these questions they want to go ask. And so one of the things that we've done is built a live interactive chatbot that you can have right on your trust center. So you have a web page that's just right there, built by Vanta. You can upload and control what is all of your documents that are accessible to different people. So you can be like, here's my ISO report, here's my SOC 2 report, here's my pen test. You can control if everyone has access to that, if it's a subset that has access to that, what the chatbot can use for knowledge. But now your prospects, instead of already pinging your sales team and then pinging your security team and creating all this internal work, can really self-serve directly from the trust center. They can see what your controls are, who are your sub-processors, how you're using the data, how up-to-date you are, ask more detailed security questions. And then when they do want to go send the big questionnaire, they can go send that. And then we will analyze the previous questionnaires that the software seller had done before to automatically answer those. And again, the security team's still in charge. They still go through and choose which questions they want to approve. But we've really had amazing success with the quality of these, with getting up to an 85% answer acceptance rate with no edits. Like, so people are just accepting it exactly the way that it is. So we've really spent a lot of time understanding what is the right ways to kind of optimize our AI to answer some of these security questions. So I think that on the software selling side, another big one was what we've done in vendor risk management. Just like when you're selling software, you also need to go buy software. And that procurement process can take a lot of time, and a lot of it's gathering all this documents, all this evidence, pulling that all in, and then asking questions about it. And we've applied that same Vanta AI technology where you can kind of create these templates. When you get all those documents from your new vendor, you can just dump them in, and we will go ahead and automatically assess those. And you can flag findings, you can link them to your different risks and what you care about as a company. You can have those automatically producing kind of JIRA tickets or other follow-up items that you need. And then I think the really important thing we do is give you the references for these as well. So it's not just an answer where you're like, well, is this accurate? Did it hallucinate it or not? Like, we give you, hey, from this document, we pulled it out and here's the reference, so people can double check it. And the normal stuff you would expect, like you could thumbs up and thumbs down our answers. Based on that, the models get better over time.
And also, when I was doing a little research on you, I also came across Vanta's State of Trust report. So can you tell me a bit more about some of the key findings in that report? And also, what are the most critical areas for businesses to understand right now? Anything that really stood out for you?
Yeah, I think one of the big areas that stood out to me, kind of just continue our conversation on AI, is just there is so much AI that is not only new AI products people are buying, but your existing products that you've already bought are now adding all these AI features. Mm-hmm. And when I talk to different security leaders, they just have a bunch of questions. They're like, what is this feature actually doing? Did it get enabled? Am I in control of my data? Or is it automatically turned on? Is it not? Do I get to opt in? What level of control do I have there? I think the other top of mind question I hear from everyone is it training on my data? And I think that really comes from a concern of, hey, if I'm using this model and I'm exposing it to my own intellectual property or the own inner workings of my company, is it going to like mistakenly just reproduce that for someone else or for my competitors? And so I think this is one of the top areas that I hear concern for people, and that we've seen for people that are purchasing Vanta. They ask us these questions. It's actually one of the reasons why I partnered with JD, who's the CISO of Vanta, for us to co-author like a blog post together to explain what are our principles behind AI, what do we do, how do we think about rolling out these features, which is giving customers notice and giving them control whenever we are doing these things. They know when AI is being used, they can turn it off if they want to. They understand who our sub-processors are, so which vendors we're using for AI. And then at the same time, we don't train on customer data. So letting you know that like how we're optimizing our models is not based on your data. So you have no concern that that is then kind of has a potential to get replicated to one of your competitors or to someone else that you don't want to know about it.
And there were also quite a few worrying stats in there. One in particular really stood out for me was that the report mentioned that only 9% of the average UK company's IT budget is generally dedicated to security. So can you expand on that? What are the implications of that statistic for businesses, especially in this age where there seems to be breaches almost every day?
Exactly. And like you have the breaches, and then you also end up having all these different, unethical actors, if you will, all the different hackers kind of coming in, trying to extort these different companies as well. You have the ransomware attacks. So I think we're only going to see this go up over time. I think the amount of focus on security and the spending on security. I think the other thing that when I look at that stat and try to understand like where is it going is also kind of a hiring issue with security as well. So I think this is one of the places where software security vendors like Vanta and others have a huge opportunity to really help these companies because it's really hard to find great security talent. And then unfortunately, a lot of them are spending time on a lot of these manual paperwork processes, whether it be they're doing compliance kind of the old pre-Vanta way, where they're manually filling out these reports, kind of going through, sending these documents, taking screenshots versus having built-in automated compliance and control monitoring like Vanta has, or the questionnaires, or the many other kind of security tasks that they do that are really manual. So I think that one, we're going to see that kind of like spending go up over time and they're more focused. And then I think the other thing that is just like, how do we help all those security professionals be more efficient? Because it's still a small pool. And I think people are looking for more people to go into the profession and to specialize more there.
And although we're seeing a lot of hype and excitement around things like AI and automation, how it improves collaboration, content creation, all that good stuff, according to the report, 8% of UK leaders are already using or planning to use ML and AI to detect risks. Still a very small number, but how are you, Vanta, supporting these efforts? Because that number's only going to increase, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think when we look at what we're doing for the vendor risk side, especially, it's really helpful when people are in this procurement process of buying software. How do we help them really see the efficiency? Reports like the Vanta report, we have another one that we're doing on long-term ROI of kind of like trust centers and questionnaire automation and Vanta AI overall that we'll be sharing out more soon as well, that really start to show the savings. It's like when I've talked to a bunch of our customers, many of them will end up saving hours every single week. Sometimes it ends up being 10, 20, 30 hours a week that they would have spent manually gathering these documents, pulling through all this stuff, just pouring through it to kind of do a pretty repetitive task of like searching, looking for the same tasks over and over again. So I think those time savings are going to be huge for a lot of these people. And I think that they'll just start to see the value more. I think there is a little bit of comfort that needs to come with AI over time and people building that trust. So I think that's why it's at the point it is. But I think over time, we're understanding what it's capable of or not. And then some of that depends on the vendor. Are you being really upfront with how you're treating your customers' data? Do they feel like they have confidence and trust that you will protect their data? Because with AI, you're getting access to more of their data than you probably have before and running a new set of tech over it. But yeah, I think that there's all these new applications too that we're starting to get, like even for these manual cases in GRC where to provide evidence to your auditor, maybe there aren't APIs where you can really automate it and even a Vanta product like Vanta can't automate it and you still have to send a screenshot. AI is great at kind of analyzing that and pulling out the interesting information. So I think there's a lot of these other places, which Vanta does as well with the different screenshots there. When you go ahead and think about like the different controls you have to run your program, how do you automatically map those to risks? And then how, when you're evaluating a new vendor, can we automatically be like, hey, you've told us you have these company risks and you have these controls. Don't even worry about telling us all the little questions. From that, we can infer these are the set of things you're going to care about and then classify this vendor that you're looking at as high risk. And you may want to have these set of conversations with them. So I think overall, we're going to see more comfort building with these, but I think it really comes down to the individual vendors like Vanta being really clear on transparency and control, how you're using the AI, what you're doing with it. Customers know and feel empowered around when they're using it and where it's good and where we're still learning.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the word risk there, because there are a lot of risk-adverse industries, from finance and legal are obvious examples. And for those reasons, I was unsurprised to read that 6 out of 10 UK decision makers at some of those larger organisations feel that regulating AI would make them much more comfortable investing in it. So what are your thoughts on that? It is something we're seeing more and more of. And how are you addressing some of these concerns?
Yeah, definitely. I think that for Vanta, obviously one of the things we help people do is automate compliance. So we're very involved with all the different regulations. 2 things that we are going through now and now offer in our product, and we're the first to offer, was the NIST AI risk management framework directly built into Vanta. So if you want to adopt that, as we have adopted it internally, it's a great set of best practices for responsible AI usage. ISO 42001, which in some degree is kind of the codification of the EU AI Act, or at least parts of it, is really helpful and is something that we deliver directly through our product as well. So you can get a set of automation and a set of controls and then have that blended in to all the different parts of your GRC program, whether that be managing your assets, your vulnerabilities, your personnel, and your vendors. So I think those were kind of 2 areas. When I think about what can Vanta do with AI, there's a lot of what we've talked about so far, a lot of great AI products that we offer and ways we're using it to make our product even better for you. But there's also how can we keep up and are keeping up with all the latest regulations and delivering that set of automated value so that you can be like, hey, we really need to go adopt this regulation, or we love this framework here. We want to make that real within our company. So Vanta really makes it easy for you to go and understand what that is and then automate a lot of that so that you don't have to do as much of the kind of manual work along with it.
And I think any tech project or indeed tech partnership now comes under close scrutiny for, hey,
Definitely.
What business value does it offer? What's the ROI of pursuing this? So do you have any success stories or examples where Vanta's trust management platform has significantly improved, maybe shown some measurable impact or tangible difference to security and indeed compliance for an organization? You don't have to name any names, but is there any stories you can share there?
I mean, I think specifically when I look at Vanta AI, we have questionnaire automation and trust centers. I think those are 2 areas where those products have been in market with a bunch of big customers that are already starting to see success. Zoom Info is another great example of this, where up to 90% of their customer security questions are answered via Vanta AI and are getting automated process, which is just amazing to go see. Obviously, saving them a ton of time every single week. The bigger the customer is, also probably the more questionnaires they're dealing with. I've talked with customers that deal with hundreds and thousands of questionnaires. And many times these are not just even 100 questions, but can be 300 or 400 questions long. So tons of time saving there. Smart Recruiters is another one where we save about 20 hours a week by streamlining that security review process, whether it be around questionnaires, their Trust Center, or even the chatbot on the Trust Center. A lot of the times customers go to the Trust Center and they interact with the chatbot that's right there, and that's where they can get a lot of their questions answered. So it's kind of deflecting a bunch of that work from the security and sales team. The other thing it does is it really drives up accuracy as well. A lot of the times, if you're a salesperson, maybe you're going to send the doc that you sent last time, and maybe you've been doing that for 6 or 9 months, and some of the data may be out of date, right? But it's the convenient thing that you sent last time, you're just going to copy and paste it. So I think the other value we get from Vanta AI in a bunch of these cases is that it's always giving you the latest, most accurate answers as well. And you can kind of drive up not only the time savings, but the accuracy as well.
So many golden insights in there. And I'd love to hear more from people listening on how they're using this technology and how they would like to maybe explore a relationship with Vanta as well. And we started the podcast today, though, talking about your time and your career, your origin story, beginning with everything from Microsoft to GitHub to Vanta today. But of course, none of us are able to achieve any degree of success without a little help along the way. So as we come full circle here and you look back at your career, is there a particular person that you're grateful towards? Maybe someone saw something in you, helped you get you where you are today, that we can give a little shout out and a thank you to them?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there are so many different people that have kind of helped me throughout my career and influenced. One of the ones that came to mind was an early manager I had at Microsoft, Piero Sierra, who is actually now the CPO at Skyscanner. And he was just really influential to me on, one, just helping me understand what it meant to be a manager. It was my first time being a manager. He took that bet on me and really mentored me to be like, how do you grow people? How do you make sure that they're inspired and excited about what they're doing every day? How to look for different coaching opportunities, how to go do that. Gave me that big opportunity when we were working on OneDrive and kind of building that in the early days. I think the other big thing I learned from him was just how important design is to product management. And like, what does it mean to have a product that's well designed and not just useful, but really delightful? And it's something that people love and caring about all the little details that go along with it. And definitely something that I've continued with throughout my career and something we strive for at Vanta every day is to kind of have a high quality, delightful product that people just love using every day and really kind of polishing all the edges, which I think really adds up over time. And I think of it as actually a way to build trust. I think a lot of times when we talk about trust, we think about security and we think about compliance and privacy and some of these other really important areas that are. But I think there is a certain amount of trust of when you're using a high quality product, you think if they're putting this amount of level of detail into making this really good, they probably are caring about all these other things I'm not thinking about as well. So I look at design as also being a core part of kind of building trust with customers and building that deep relationship.
Wow, what a great answer. One of the reasons I always ask that is because I think he is probably blissfully unaware on the impact he's had on you and your career and your outlook. So it's so important to get that message out there, and hopefully he will get to hear it. And for everybody listening, what's the best place for anyone to find you or your team online and find out more about anything we've talked about today?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, come to Vanta.com, check out the product. We have a bunch of exciting announcements that we've done recently, more coming up and kind of all the time, especially if you're looking to get certification for SOC 2 or ISO for the first time, GDPR. There's over 30 frameworks that we cover end to end, whether it be in the AI space with ISO 42001, NIST AI, RMF, or many others. So yeah, I would say that's the best place to connect. And then you can find me on Twitter and on Threads as just Jeremy Epling.
Awesome. I'll get all those links added to the show notes so people can find you nice and easy. We covered so much there, some big stats, such as 9% of the average UK companies mentioned in your report say their IT budget is dedicated to security, a very low number. But there's a lot to be hopeful about here. And I love how the potential of AI to fortify businesses' cybersecurity defences through enhanced compliance should hopefully change that narrative. And congratulations to you again for getting that award of #1 most innovative security company this year by Fast Company. I'd love to stay in touch with you, see how this story evolves, and maybe those stats will improve next year. But thanks for joining me today.
Yes, thanks for having me. It's been a great discussion, and yeah, would love to keep the conversation going.
I think it's evident that AI holds tremendous potential in enhancing cybersecurity and compliance, areas that we don't talk about enough. And that can be from automating compliance processes to providing real-time security insights. And Vanta seems to be setting the standard for innovation in the security industry. They've got the award for it. So, big question, though, is what are your thoughts on the role of AI in cybersecurity? Had you not thought about it too much until today's episode? Or how is your organisation adapting to these advancements? Love to hear your perspectives. Connect with me in all the usual places. Socials, just @NeilCHughes, and email techblogwriter@outlook.com. Other than that, I will return again tomorrow with another guest for you. But thank you for listening today, and thank you for listening right to the end of the conversation. Love to hear your thoughts on this. And until next time, don't be a stranger.